Viewers and listeners of this podcast know, man, Vinny Rottino has got it going on the Brewer TV network. He is very thoughtful, does his homework, knows the Brewers like the back of his hand. We'll catch up with Vinny coming up next here on this edition of Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Brewers have been relatively quiet here recently. Are they going to make any more moves? Are we ready to go for spring training? It's coming up in about a month. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. New customers can bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Win or lose, FanDuel.com. Get started today. Vinny Rottino, our guest from the Brewers Television Network, making the stop. Wait, what are you doing in Madison tonight, Vinny?
So I made a stop. I was asked by Mike Heller to be the speaker at the Dugout Club. Actually, myself and Tim Dillard. So they had both of us there tonight. And so, yeah, Dillard had quite the comedy act, as he usually does out there on stage. And so that was a lot of fun to listen to. And so it's a great organization. If you want to support youth baseball in the Madison area, if you're around the area, think about supporting the Dugout Club.
Dillard, nice opening act for your main event there tonight. That's a good opening act for you.
I was actually the opening act, and I roasted him. I told him I was going to roast him a couple times. So and he did not reciprocate, but that's okay. It was a lot of fun.
That's good. Well, hey man, nothing better than talking baseball here in the wintertime. We're getting going here in a couple of weeks. Vinny, how do you feel this offseason in general? What have you liked so far about this offseason for the Brewers?
Well, they made the move. The big move obviously was trading away Devin Williams, right? So he's the all-star closer for the Milwaukee Brewers. Last year, he lost half of the season, right, because of those stress fractures in his back. It is a tough loss, right? You're going to lose some really, really nice production from the back end from Devin Williams. Got that great changeup. Yeah, anytime you talk, Chuck, about the fact that they did lose Devin Williams, everyone's kind of like, okay. And I get it, right? It is time maybe a little bit for him to go and see what you can get for him. So they did get back a depth piece in Nestor Cortez, Nasty Nestor, they call him, right? The lefty, 174 innings last year with a 3.71 ERA. So it's pretty solid production from him. So they're probably going to be looking from him to get similar innings out of him. And then they did get this kid named Caleb Durbin, who is a 5'5" player. He's 5'5" tall. Yeah. So, but don't look at the height, right? So look at the production. He was really good in the fall league. He set a record for stolen bases in a fall league. This kid feels like a Milwaukee Brewer, right? The ability to play all the three different infield spots for the Brewers, third, second, and short. I think they're going to try and see what they can get from him at third base. Because that is the big hole, Chuck. So that hole really hasn't been answered yet. So they're probably going to move Joey Ortiz. I'm just speculating here. They're probably going to move Joey Ortiz over to short, keep Bryce Terang, the Platinum Gold Glove winner, at second, and then they're going to have the great outfield that they've had, especially with Christian Yelich coming back without the inflammation in his back anymore. And so they haven't really made that many moves. That was the big one, obviously. And so I do like where they're at. I just feel like they're going to run it back with a similar brand of baseball that they played last year with Pat Murphy at the helm, stolen bases, hitting and running sometimes, bunning guys over, and then great defense. They're going to continue to play great defense with the names that they have that they're going to be able to run out there on a nightly basis, and then starting pitching and bullpen help as well. So it's going to be a similar look.
The one thing about Durbin I have a question about is, have you ever seen a 5'5" or 5'6" third baseman?
No, I have not, but I have seen Jose Altuve play a pretty good second base.
Yeah, or short.
With that stature. Yeah, or short. So, but no, not at third base. But this is an unconventional type of a player, just in terms of his stature. But again, this is a player that the Brewers have done this time in, time out, right? They allow guys like a Joey Ortiz. Remember, Joey Ortiz didn't play every day last year to start the season. He had to earn his way into the starting lineup, and he did so. He cooled off a little bit at the end, but you just never know until you give these guys a chance. And again, this is a instinctual player. This is a headsy player. This is a guy who went to Washington University. Now that's hard to get into, I've heard, than like a Harvard. I mean, this is an Ivy League type of a school. It's a Division III school. He's shined. He's earned everything that he's gotten. I'm excited to see this kid. This is a kid that Pat Murphy has had some history with, actually. And so I can see why they acquired him. And this is the kind of guy that does take that next step when he puts the Milwaukee Brewers uniform on.
You know, they got the 93 wins last year. They had so many things go well. I mean, it was such a great season. I'm just talking strictly the regular season. Boy, how can you duplicate something like that? I mean, they had, like I said, so many things. Murphy pushed all the right buttons, and then you lose the closer, and then, of course, Willy Adames. It's he is going to be tough to replicate.
Well, I make this point, and I don't think this point is talked about quite enough with the Milwaukee Brewers, with a team like the Tampa Bay Rays and the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, Matt Arnold's coming from the Tampa Bay Rays, so he's implementing a similar type of a model. The model is that you don't sign the guys for $150 million, right? Because usually there's a history of some of these contracts, some of these massive deals of free agents that are signing guys in their 30s. And then once they hit that age curve, that downward trajectory of that age curve, all of a sudden halfway through those deals, those become dead contracts. Those contracts are very hard to help manage your roster after a while. So the Brewers stay away from that. So what do they do instead is that they get guys, and again, I'm going to talk about Caleb Durbin, guys like Caleb Durbin, like Joey Ortiz. Joey Ortiz was a big piece of the Corbin Burns deal last year. Caleb Durbin could be a big part of this Devin Williams deal. Again, you just don't know what you're going to get from him until you allow him to develop at the big league level. Now, the Brewers have the luxury of developing guys at the big league level where maybe other teams don't quite have that luxury. They don't have the ability to give a longer leash to a player because maybe it's a bigger media market, or maybe or the fan base doesn't quite understand, okay, we have to give these guys an opportunity to develop. And that's where the Brewers do, I think, have actually a competitive advantage over some of the teams that are able to spend the big dollars and are almost pressured to spend the big dollars by the media, by the fan base. So that's where I do think the Brewers can come out ahead on this.
I think the Brewers are in a great spot in this, where they're winning games and they're developing players. Usually you're losing when you're developing players.
That's a great point, Chuck. That is a great point. I mean, you look back ever since this run started back in 2017. I mean, you remember the Tyler Thornburg deal with the Boston Red Sox, and they got, I can't believe I'm blanking on the name, Travis Shaw at third base. All of a sudden you come over, and Travis Shaw was probably a third baseman, or an up and down third baseman, maybe first baseman, going from AAA to the big leagues with the Boston Red Sox. He was never going to get a chance. All of a sudden they throw him at third base, and he hits 30 home runs for 2 years in a row, right? And he was called the mayor of Ding Dong City or whatever it was. So this is what I'm talking about. You can trace it back all the way from 2017. That's 8 years now where they've continued to do that. Willy Adames, Chuck, was that guy. Yeah. He was hitting 170 with the Rays, and the Brewers acquire him. All of a sudden he turns into an all-star and is making $170 million or whatever he signed for. So they have a track record of doing this, developing guys at the big league level while also winning. It's called threading the needle, right? And this is what teams try to do, but teams don't seem to be they're not able to do it as consistently as the Milwaukee Brewers. So hat tip to the front office of Matt Arnold.
All right. Hey, hang on, Vinny. When we come back, we're going to ask you about Christian Yelich and what we're expecting. What are some reasonable numbers to expect with Christian Yelich? We'll get more Vinny Rottino coming up. After this, Chuck Freeman here, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Locked On Brewers, FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook for a reason. Man, the live betting on there, and if you're like me, the live betting, that's the way to go. I love live betting. I love taking, well, in reasonable terms, a team that's heavily favored to start the game, gets down early, like the Kansas City Chiefs tend to do, and then come back, get myself a good line, and away we go. And at FanDuel, you could do that. Right now, new customers bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. $200 in bonus bets, win or lose when you place that $5 bet. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, so much more. Visit the website and look at the lines. Right there, the lines have all the play-by-play on the live lines, and That's all you need for live betting. But there's so much more than live betting. Any sport you want, it's all there. Visit FanDuel.com today. Get started with the $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Vinny Rottino, one of the terrific analysts on Locked On Brewers, joining us right now. Vinny, when do you get that urge that as a player, do you feel differently than an analyst that spring training is a couple of weeks away?
I do, because I don't have to stress about, going 0 for 20 or whatever I was likely to do. Yeah, and get in shape for sure. No, I absolutely love being on the broadcast side of things, analyzing the team. I have to pinch myself every once in a while just to be like, oh my goodness, this is a lot of fun. I'm getting paid to do it, and get to follow my boyhood team, right? The Milwaukee Brewers, and what a fun team to follow. I mean, some guys have to comment on, some other organizations that have been at a rough go of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the Brewers are a fun team to kind of follow and break down for sure.
Yeah, I love your work, man. I always joke on the podcast. I always say, Vinny, man, must spend like most of his time in the hotel room going over numbers and stuff like that. He's right on with this stuff, man. And I'm talking about both teams, not only our team, whoever we're playing.
Yeah, I do. You know what, Chuck, that was my scouting background. So after I got done playing, I was a pro scout for the Texas Rangers for 4 years. And that's what we were required to do. We had to know players inside and out. And I just, I was fascinated by scouting. I loved scouting. And so I still love it, but I'm not titled to scout anymore. And so now I kind of take that into the booth. All
right. What's your scout on Christian Yelich coming off the back? And I've always said, with guys who are coming off injuries, especially at his age, you just don't know. What do you think how will they use him, and what kind of production can we get from him this year?
Yep. So Christian Yelich last year, when he was healthy, when that back was not inflamed, it was really good production, right? I mean, it was he leading the National League or close to it in batting average? His on-base percentage was off the charts. He was hitting home runs again. This looked like vintage Christian Yelich from 18 and 19. He wasn't quite hitting the home runs at the pace that he was that year. Now, he has surgery, he gets shut down. And from what I hear, there was a lot of inflammation in those herniated discs in his back. That was all cleaned up. That is a really good sign for the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, he is 33 years old still. There is, with any player that age, there's going to be some injury risk, but I don't think the back is going to be a bother to him anymore. Now, think about when you and I, we wake up and our backs ache, and it's hard to tie your shoes or take care of your kids in the morning. Like, this guy's trying to hit 95 plus with nasty sliders and stuff. So the fact that he's going to be freed up from that kind of pain and discomfort in his back, and he's already shown that he is capable of producing, like, again, not quite the MVP power, but some of the MVP production. I think we're going to see some of that. Now, I think he's also going to probably play a little bit more DH this season just because of the depth that the Brewers have in the outfield. And then again, they're going to win with defense. Got to throw him out there in left field, though, to keep him loose, keep him on his toes. But and he'll play fine. He'll play fine out there. He's just not going to be, a Blake Perkins type of a defender out there anymore. Sure. So that's kind of where Yelich is at.
So home runs down, production's still there. Like last year when he was playing, there was production. Just the numbers. Just the home run numbers down a little bit. 20, 25.
Yeah, I would say 25. Potentially, again, if he's healthy, I mean, he's capable of hitting 30. I mean, the numbers off of his bat are some of the best in the big leagues in terms of exit velocities. I mean, he's hitting balls consistently over 110 miles per hour. Now, putting that into context, I mean, that is in the 97th percentile of all big leaguers of how the ball is coming off of his bat. I mean, he has just got such long levers with such a fast bat that once he makes contact with it, and he's got a special innate ability to find the barrel of the bat with the ball. I mean, he just does. And then the other thing that he does, Chuck, that isn't really taught, he's such a pesky at bat that he actually wears down pitchers for the guy but hitting behind him, right? So it's probably going to be, he probably is going to hit third, is my guess, with William Contreras hitting second again, or whoever's hitting behind him is going to have a guy on base pretty much 40+% of the time, because his on base percentage is over 400 last year.
Sure.
So he's so pesky for opposing pitchers to try and get out.
As long as he's in the lineup, that's all I care about.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Get him in the lineup and let him do what he does. Rhys Hoskins is coming back. He had some injuries last year. Batted 207. Still hit the home runs. Maybe 82 RBIs. I think it was off the top of my head. Yeah. What can we expect from Rhys? I love the signing initially. I just want to see some more production out of him.
Down year last year. So, Rhys is a tough one because they definitely need the production out of him, especially with the $13 million deal that he's playing. I actually think it's 18.
18.
I think it's an 18. Yeah.
13 last year. I think it's 18 now.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chuck. So you're going to definitely need to get some value out of him. He showed some signs last year right before that hamstring injury where he was peppering the ball the other way. The swing looked a little shorter. It looked a little quicker. At times, it just looked like the timing was off, and that's a product of him missing an entire season. He's a guess hitter, right? So you see him hammer breaking balls when he's guessing breaking ball, especially right-handed sliders. He'll do that once in a while, and he'll get it. So I just think there's a little bit of a cat and mouse game going on with the pitchers. I also think it looked like he was searching a little bit last year, like mentally, right? He was searching for his swing. He was searching for consistent timing. He was always working on his swing before the games. As a player, that can be good and bad. So, it's almost like tinkering a little bit too much. Hopefully you can get in a groove early and you get some production out of Rhys Hoskins. And then, the glove over there at first base is, he's gotta make sure that he tightens that up a little bit as well. At times, some errors over there at first. So, you're just looking for a little bit better season. Hopefully he gets off to a good start. Very important for Rhys Hoskins. Good start.
Vinny, in the outfield, can we expect more from Sal Frelick? Is there another level that he hasn't taken his game yet?
So Sal, to me, is one of these pesky type of guys that's going to get on base. He's going to refuse to strike out. He's going to hit the ball the other way. But the ball, I'm not sure if it's really going to jump off his bat that consistently with those bigger number exit velocities like you're going to see from a Christian Yelich. He's just not built that way. He's a 5'9", 5'10" guy, short arms, short levers, quick bat. Can really tell ball from strike. He can wear out pitchers. He was really good last year when he was using the middle of the field opposite way. And I just think that needs to be his game consistently. And when he does that, you're talking about a guy who's a baton passer, right? So meaning he's not going to be an easy out. He's not going to have a whole lot of holes in his swing. And again, the Brewers wear down opposing pitching staffs when they do this from the top of the lineup to the bottom of the lineup. Every piece in that cog, every part of that lineup has to be doing that in order for the Brewers to score runs. And Sal Frelick's one of those guys. Just don't know if we're ever going to see that bigger production power-wise from Sal.
Garrett Mitchell, he stays healthy. It's the upside there with Garrett.
You're talking about a guy with some of the biggest, loudest tools in all of baseball. I mean, we saw that last year. He looks like he's just kind of playing pepper with the ball, and all of a sudden it's in the right field bleachers. So one of the fastest guys in baseball as well, can really go get it in center field. You got to monitor him, right? Being a type 1 diabetic, you got to monitor his workload. I mean, you do in order for him to stay fresh. And so hopefully he can do that. I think Garrett is poised to have a nice year, though.
We come back, one more final segment. I'll ask him quickly about the pitching staff before we turn him loose. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Great to have you on here on Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host. You get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you download your podcast. We are there. And, of course, our growing YouTube page, search Locked On Brewers. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That alerts you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Follow me on Twitter as well, at Chuck Freeman. And, of course, our guest, Vinny Rottino. You follow him, Vinny Rottino, VINNYROTTINO. The pride of the Angels, the pride of Racine St. Catharines.
That's right.
The pride of the Angels. Absolutely. My cousins went there. My grandfather went there. That's so we have a little Racine background. common ground here. The pitching staff. You good with this? The pitching staff so far? Starters.
I am. Start with the starters. Of course, you're going to have Freddie Peralta at the top. You're going to have Aaron Savali, Tobias Myers, one of the better pitchers in all of baseball last year once he kind of figured it out and came back up from AAA. Nestor Cortez is going to be in the mix there. DL Hall is going to be in the mix. Aaron Ashby is going to be in the mix. And let's not forget, that's 6 names I just counted. That's all going to be potential in the mix, in the rotation, and or depth, or maybe a long guy in the bullpen. But let's not forget Brandon Woodruff, right? So Brandon Woodruff is back. Brandon Woodruff is still kind of building up from what I read with the article that Adam McCalvey put out recently on where he's at with his shoulder. So it's going to be a big test for him, and he even said so in that article. He said it's going to be a big test for him in order to get on track and to get over that mental hurdle that his shoulder is going to be okay if he lets it loose, if he lets it rip. Because, I mean, this is one of the most dynamic deliveries in all of baseball. His ability just to rip through the baseball, 98, 99 at the top, can really command it to different quadrants of the zone, has multiple pitches for strikes, 2-seam and 4-seam fastball. So for him to get back to that place with his delivery, it's a mental hurdle at this point. He's so big and athletic that I think he will do it. It's going to be very important for him to get off on the right foot in spring training and then feel really no discomfort. Now, he's the only one that's going to be able to sense that. Now, it sounds like in his bullpen sessions, he feels really strong. That is a good sign for the Milwaukee Brewers. If you do have Brandon Woodruff back, okay, now watch out. If that is the case, watch out for this team again to almost run away with the division. He is a big piece to this thing. Hopefully he's going to be feeling healthy.
It'll be like picking up an ace, man, if he can turn back, because he's got ace stuff.
He does have ace stuff. And you talk about a guy that has just that bulldog mentality, that number one ace type of mentality, does not want to be taken out of games, wants to go deep into the games, wants to face the heart of the order that third time through. Those guys don't grow on trees, Chuck. And if the Brewers get him back healthy and performing in true form, basically as to what he was a couple of years ago, watch out, because they do have a very strong rotation. Because, with Tobias Myers taking that step forward, and then just the Brewers' ability just to kind of get more from guys, and maybe they get more from a Nestor Cortez. They just have that track record of doing that. They do. And so we'll see. I mean, the pitching is going to be a strong suit again.
Yeah, and I really like the bullpen. Even though they lost Devin, I still like a lot of the pieces out there, don't you?
Trevor McGill, he how many saves did he have before Devin Williams came back? He's going to be the closer. You have Nick Mears there, that acquisition from the Rockies. You have, don't forget about Abner Uribe, right? So he's got a little bit of a suspension, but that was nasty stuff that he was showcasing 2 seasons ago. And at times last year, he had a little hiccup with his delivery. He'll figure things out. Talk about a bulldog. You got multiple guys down there. Brewers are going to they'll find more guys as well, right? So they'll just keep churning out a pipeline of relievers that they're going to be able to send out there and just get the job done late in the game, middle of the game, leverage situations. It's so fun to watch what Chris Hook has been able to do, Nestor Corridor has been able to do, helping the rotation, Jim Henderson. And don't forget about Carlos Villanueva. He is the kind of the unsung hero in the organization with the pitching. What he has been able to do, former player Carlos Villanueva, he has done a great job with a lot of the arms, especially the guys from Latin America as well, the Spanish-speaking players. He does a great job of those guys. So, yeah, this is a strong suit of the Milwaukee Brewers. It's so fun to watch that group.
Before I let you go, Pat Murphy, what can he do for an encore National League Manager of the Year?
Oh.
You covered him the entire year you were around him. And Brewer fans have a lot of trust in him too.
He reminds you a little bit of a. Remember how much Mike Holmgren was beloved by the fan base in Green Bay?
And then
you feel that. What's that?
And then he went to
Seattle. I know. So it was unforgivable. But it's that kind of feel. Like it's that kind of feel that everyone trusts him. Everyone knows what he has as the leader of the Milwaukee Brewers with his responsibilities there and with this group that we love so much, our team, our Brewers, and Murph. The encore is just it's just to entertain us, obviously play winning baseball. And I think that they will. but just continue to entertain us night in, night out with what they're able to do on and off the field, because it's a lot of fun listening to Murph in those press conferences as well.
It is. Man, I want to get to another World Series. I was a kid when they got to the World Series the first time. Thought, hey, with all these guys coming back, we're going to get back there again. Yep. And haven't been back since. But things are going in the right direction. We own the NL Central for now, but that could change if we don't keep going.
It could. And honestly, the most detrimental move to the Milwaukee Brewers this offseason was the fact that the Chicago Cubs got Kyle Tucker. That guy can play. That guy is a player, and the Cubs are going to be good because of it.
Yeah, best move in the division. Hey, Vinny, thanks for taking some time. Late night, I know, and in Madison at your banquet there. Have fun at spring training. Catch up with you maybe a little bit later on during the season.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, Chuck.
All right, that's Vinny Rottino, analyst on the Milwaukee Brewers television network. Well, not really a network. They're on Bally Sports or FanDuel as it is right now. But hey, he does an amazing job, whether he's in studio or in the broadcast booth. Vinny Rottino, he is our guy, and we'll catch up with him once we get going here in the season. That's going to do it for me, Chuck Freeman. Thanks for making us your first listen to every day here on Locked On Brewers. For your second listen, go to Locked On MLB. Our guy Sully got all the hot stove league, and he's leading right up to spring training with all that news coming around Major League Baseball on Locked On MLB. Chuck Freeman, you get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you download your podcast, we're there. And please follow us on our growing YouTube page. Search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.